News Now is brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, Docomo Pacific, island-wide, worldwide, the choice is clear. And Micronesia Renewable Energy. Go solar for zero money down. From the Pacific News Center in Hagåtña, Guam, here's Clint Ridgell and Janella Carrera with Betsy Brown and Roselle Romanes. PNC Sports with Blake Watson and Weather with Rebecca Kim. With your news now.
Hafa and good evening, and thanks for tuning to the Pacific News Center. I'm Clint Ridgell, and this is Betsy Brown.
And I'm Betsy Brown. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's News Now. Your top story tonight, lawmakers went into session this afternoon to discuss a measure to repeal the recent Hay-recommended raises for elected and appointed officials. Bill 435 was introduced by Senator Mike San Nicolas this morning, and by this afternoon, lawmakers went into session. Acting Speaker B.J. Cruz called the session at the request of San Nicolas. San Nicolas says the bill was not introduced as a reaction to the recent backlash for the raises, including a petition started by Andre Bainum that has been circulating online. As of news time, Bainum's petition to repeal the raises had 653 signatures. However, San Nicolas says it wasn't Bainum's petition that caused him to introduce the bill.
Over the last couple of weeks, we've been trying to find a legal angle to try and, halt it, based on an inconsistency in public law. But unfortunately, the way that that bill was written, there's really no legal channel for us to be able to stop those raises. And the only way we can do it is to actually move forward with an attempt to repeal the public law. The reason why we want to do that is because it's consistent with my position back in January. I don't think that we should be giving out raises to any of our elected or appointed officials until the quality of our life of our people is at a level where they're comfortable giving us those raises. The people are the boss.
As of news time, lawmakers were still discussing the bill.
A new organization has just formed that aims to challenge some decisions and policies of the Archdiocese of Hagåtña under the leadership of Archbishop Apron. PNC's Janella Carrera reports.
Meet the Concerned Catholics of Guam, a nonprofit organization. The group plans to take action that would address issues and concerns that have seemed to create a huge gap within the Catholic community. Vice President David Sablan talks about some of the concerns that compelled them to form this group.
Some of the issues that have been confronting them, with the closure of the museum, the release of Father James Benavente, Father Paul Goffagan from their parishes. And the main thing is that we got to get the finances in order.
Among those concerns also includes the Archdiocese's sexual abuse policy, which was recently tested when sex abuse allegations were lodged against the Archbishop himself.
They've said that you got to have a victim to make the complaint. The policy does not require a victim. As long as there's an allegation of a sexual abuse, then somebody has to investigate that. I don't think it's being investigated properly. Unfortunately, it's because of the fact that it's the Archbishop that's being accused, but yet he is also the person that decides whether an investigation goes forward or not. So there's a conflict of interest, and the policy does not address that.
The group so far is made up of President Gregory Cruz, Vice President David Sablan, Treasurer Deacon Stephen Martinez, Secretary Evangeline Lujan, and members Tommy Tanaka and Gil Shinohara. The members, being longtime Catholics, say they haven't seen such a divided church until recently.
Yeah, not only that, but there's a lot of confusion, a lot of disunity. The parishes are fragmented. People are asking, what can we do to restore, what can we do to repair the damage?
This table represents just a handful of many, many people that want to be a part of this group or are a part of this group, and maybe fear retribution, so they don't sit at the table with us at this point. But I tell you, there's a multitude of people out there that are speaking.
Just like a sore, pretty soon you get gangrene, pretty soon your leg gets cut off. So you don't want that to happen. You want to treat it while it's still festering. And so that's why we need to act quickly. Otherwise, the whole church is going to crumble.
Sablan adds that the organization will do whatever it takes to heal the fragmented and broken church, even if it takes them as far as petitioning for the removal of the current leadership.
We don't have any grudges against our Archbishop or the church leadership, but we want them to do it to follow, or we want them to guide us properly.
Because the Catholic Church, I think, is really hurting. The people are really hurting that we don't have a vehicle to express that.
How divided is the church now as opposed to years ago?
Well, I think the way that you can answer that is you should go to some of the masses and see, whether the congregation has dwindled. In my parish, it has.
Janella Carrera, PNC News.
To learn more about the organization, visit their website at concernedcatholicsofguam.com.
Meanwhile, John Toves is on his third attempt in demanding a meeting with Archbishop Anthony Apparon. This time, Toves says he's not afraid to get arrested. Toves is on a mission to have the Archbishop removed. He's accusing the Archbishop of sexually molesting a relative back in the 80s. Toves has gone to the Chancery on 2 other occasions. Both times he was denied a meeting with Archbishop Apparon. Last week, Vicar General Monsignor David Kittigwa indicated that he would call authorities the next time Toves visits the Chancery, but Toves took the invitation with open arms, promising to return. Before going to the Chancery, he visited the Hagatna precinct to discuss the issue with police, but he was advised to take the matter up with the Attorney General's office instead.
Their position is not to interpret the law, but to enforce the law. I did ask him if I shortcut the Attorney General and go straight up, then the scenario would be that that if it was deemed harassment in nature according to their perception, then they would call here and then they would have to come up and remove me. Either way, I look forward to being removed.
Says the AG's office advised him that because the Chancery office is a private entity, the AG cannot get involved in the matter. Toves is scheduled to leave the island tomorrow and return to California, but he warns that his mission is not over.
But my message to the Archbishop that he's only in the eye of the storm. The rest of the typhoon will come back, and the back end usually hits much, much harder than the first.
Toves' return to the Chancery was rather uneventful, as none of the church's leadership was available to meet with him.
GRRP project consultant Dave Sablon says that GRRP will foot the bill to connect their proposed incinerator to Guam's power grid. Sablon gave PNC an interview today responding to this and other concerns brought up by CCU Chairman Simon Sanchez.
The contract requires that GRP connect to the grid, okay? And so we will pay for all of that cost. The site that we've chosen initially, and we're working on it, is down by the old Gorco facility, which is the old Guam oil refinery facility close to the main gate at Naval Station. It's an industrial area, and so if we construct it there, there's a substation very close by, so it's not going to be too far for us to connect.
GRP project consultant Dave Sablon is responding to concerns brought up by CCU Chairman Simon Sanchez. Sanchez says GPA and the CCU have several concerns with regards to GRP's proposed waste-to-energy incinerator and power purchase agreement with GovGuam. On Friday, lawmakers will hold a public hearing on a bill that would approve this power purchase agreement. Sanchez told PNC that another concern is the cost of power that the incinerator will be producing. Sanchez says the cost comes to 31 cents per kilowatt hour.
I don't know how he got that number, but the way this contract works is that GRP will receive whatever solid waste they can get at the plant. They will burn it and they will produce electricity. The electricity actually belongs to the government of Guam, and it's the government of Guam that would have to negotiate with GPA for that purchase. Or the government of Guam can use the electricity themselves and probably pay a wheeling fee to Guam Power Authority to move it over their wires into their facilities, for example, like the Department of Education, Department of Administration, etc.
This brings up another concern of the CCU and GPA, that the power purchase agreement will be between GRP and GovGuam instead of between GRP and GPA. Sablon says that it's because the deal is with the government of Guam because it involves the burning of trash that would normally go to the Ledzon landfill. This burning of trash is also a big reason why Sablon says the deal is good for Guam.
There are tremendous benefits. Number one, we will not necessarily have to have more land for land filling, so we can stop at cells 1 and 2 down at Luzon and use that as an ash depository rather than solid waste. You will save about $227 million over the next 20 years by not or next 50 years, I believe, by not having to build cells 3 to 11. The receiver wants to build those cells because he's going to continue to remain here. I think we need to send him back home to Tennessee.
The solid waste federal receiver Gershman, Brickner, and Bratton gets paid to handle Guam's solid waste disposal and to manage the Luzon landfill.
Speaker Judy Wampat's bill to take the General Services Agency out of the procurement process for the purchase of solar power at the Department of Education drew support from DOE and renewable energy companies today, but received criticism from Senator Tom Adda.
Everybody's chasing their tails. And to think that by introducing a bill that simply takes GSA out of the picture, I don't believe does anything.
Senator Tom Adda voiced concern about Speaker Judy Wampat's Bill 431 during a public hearing this afternoon. The bill would amend Public Law 3295 to take the General Services Agency out of the procurement process to purchase solar energy for the island's public schools. The law was enacted more than a year ago, but no solar panels have been procured to date. And while GSA and the Department of Education have failed to work together to procure security equipment in another procurement measure, Senator Adda says GSA isn't the only one to blame on the solar procurement.
Mr. Boacola, you indicated, to this date, GSA has not issued an RFP. And maybe part of that is because DOE hasn't defined what it wants. And so, again, taking GSA out of the picture and thinking that this is going to fix it, I don't think it's going to.
Guam Renewable Energy Association President Jeffrey Vocola testified in favor of Bill 431 today, but he told Adda he would support any effort to speed the procurement process up.
Korea supports the fact that GSA should not have this procurement, and we support an agency that can move this procurement forward. So if that's not GDOE, then we need to pick the right agency, because I can't agree with you more. We have no time to chase our tail. And 377 days from now, I do not want to be sitting here, because then it's too late.
DOE Superintendent John Fernandez supported written testimony in support of the measure. Fernandez wrote that he believes it is more efficient for DOE to handle procurement of its goods and services internally.
All right, now let's check in with PNC's Roselle Romanes to see a peek at what's in store for later on in the show.
Elementary school students showcase their creativity and imagination at the Festival of Trees here at T Galleria by DFS. To find out what kind of ornaments they came up with, stay tuned.